You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room, just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high. Still, I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Hello, and welcome to Arise. I'm Sharice Mitchell, CEO of the YWCA West Central Michigan, and we are so happy that you could join us today for our reimagined spring event. We are deeply inspired by the words of Maya Angelou and hope that the sentiments of rising even in the darkest of times will inspire you too. Before we continue any further, I ask that we hold space within us and amongst us to lift up Patrick Lyoya and his family. As we went about our individual lives the last few weeks, planning spring break and Easter activities, even preparing for today's event, Mr. Lyoya's life was cut short on April 4th after being shot by a police officer. The community has seen the videos. The family is grieving, and the investigation has just begun. We've not yet seen accountability, and the road to justice and healing is long. We begin by saying the painful truth. Another unarmed Black man was shot by a police officer, and that Black man has a name, Patrick Lyoya. Our next steps require swift action investigations, honesty and transparency in findings, accountability for all those found responsible, and restorative support for the family left in the wake of Mr. Lyoya's death. And on a parallel path lie the changes in the systems and the practices that need to be made to build safer communities and honor dignity of all people in our city. The YWCA is committed to amplifying voices, advocating for change, and activating its resources and networks to contribute to solutions today and every day until justice just is. Today's Arise event is about another painful truth in our community: interpersonal and sexual violence. Whether parts of our past for which we haven't healed or today's reality that we are trying to work through, the topics can be very difficult. So while we seek to create space for hope and inspiration, please take care of yourself today. If you or anyone you know needs help, we are only a phone call away. If you need us today, tomorrow, or any day in the future, our number can be found on the screen right now or on our website at ywcawcmi.org. We are always here for you. Today, we gather in a new and unique space for all of us, not just because we are coming together in a virtual event venue, but because after careful analysis and heartfelt consideration over the last 2 years, we decided to bring an end to hosting Open Circle or Tribute. In doing so, we complete an important chapter in the history of our organization and in this community. And the last few years have provided an opportunity for us to reflect and reimagine how we engage with our community, not just on one day, but throughout the year. The YWCA is evolving, and your participation today is a testament to your faith in us as an organization and trusting us as we continue to make changes that make the most sense for who we are and what we are to the community. Despite the hardships we've all had to endure over the past couple of years, we remain firmly committed to our work. Our mission has never been more relevant. Today, we welcome you in partnership with open arms as we reintroduce you to the YWCA. And like so many of you, we've also reflected on what matters most to us throughout the last several years. In the past, the planning of such events like this, we've had highly recognizable national speakers. But upon further reflection, what matters most to us is our community and those we serve. So today, we're keeping everything hyper-local. Today's program will be a reflection of that. We will hear from incredible individuals from right here in West Michigan who help us keep our mission going, who inspire us through their words and encourage us in their wisdom and in their actions. Thank you again for being a part of this event, a new chapter in our future. And at this time, I'd like to introduce someone who is an integral part of our organization, Board President India Mans.
Thank you, Cherise. Hello, my name is India Mans, and I am so happy to be here today representing the YWCA's Board of Directors. I am the current board president, and I have been involved with this incredible organization for over 8 years. When my husband and I moved to Grand Rapids in 2013, I immediately knew I wanted to immerse myself in the community in a way that would help make it a better place for all. Knowing my passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion, a friend connected me to the YWCA of West Michigan. Upon learning about this organization's mission of eliminating racism and empowering women and girls, I knew that I wanted to become engaged in any way that I could. So I first joined the Mission Committee and eventually the Board of Directors. The YWCA is such a unique and beautiful place with a welcoming message for all. As I became immersed and engaged in the mission, I learned more about the day-to-day work of the organization. Not only is it a space to help those impacted by domestic and sexual violence, but also a space for tremendous activism. There is an epidemic of violence that creates a ripple effect throughout our community, and the YWCA is at the forefront of helping victims become survivors. Whether it is discussed or not, a lot of people have someone they know or care about who has been impacted by domestic or sexual violence or abuse. For me, these issues are not hard to be passionate about. I sleep better at night knowing that the YWCA exists to help anyone in West Michigan impacted by these dark moments. One of the most recognized activists of our time, Malala Yousafzai, once said, "When the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful." I cannot help but think that the voice of so many is that of the YWCA, and I am so proud that I have been involved with this organization for as long as I have. As my tenure as board president ends this year, my personal mission to foster a broader relationship between the YWCA and our community remains unchanged. My involvement has always been driven by my passion for the work and the mission. You are here today because the YWCA also means something to you. I ask that you join me in continuing to spread the word about the importance of the work at the YWCA. Please consider making an additional donation or looking into volunteering opportunities. We need your help now more than ever. Before we get on with today's program, I have the distinct honor of introducing today's presenting sponsor, Mercantile Bank of Michigan. Mercantile Bank has been a pillar of support for the YWCA for several years, and we are eternally grateful for the resources they provide us. Through their generosity, we continue to provide safe spaces for refuge, learning, and healing for 4,000 people every year. Mercantile Bank is a multifaceted leader in our community, and I am honored to introduce them today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ray Reitzma, President of Mercantile Bank here in Grand Rapids, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the Rise Spring Luncheon of the YWCA. Mercantile Bank is very pleased to partner with this organization and others like it that serve and strengthen the communities that we serve, and we are pleased to support the values that the Y brings forth in their mission to empower women, girls, and families, eliminate racism, promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. Please join me in learning more about the elements of the YWCA's mission as we go through this program this afternoon. I'm sure you'll learn a lot, and you'll learn about how we can make our community a better place. It's never been more important than it is today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ray, and the Mercantile team. We are so humbled by your generosity and commitment to creating a safer, more inclusive community for all. We're grateful to have Mercantile Bank as today's presenting sponsor. And I also want to take a brief moment to thank our premier sponsor, Meijer, as well as all of our other generous sponsors who have helped make this event today possible. To have so many local businesses, organizations, and individuals providing resources to the YWCA truly helps underscore one of the event's goals of keeping things local. The YWCA is honored to be joined by all of you as we continue our mission to empower those we serve today and in the future. Your support helps us fulfill our mission and keeps our programming alive. Thank you. One of the many programs that these funds help support is the Nurse Examiner Program, or as we call it, NEP, which just reached its 25th year of existence. What a great and wonderful anniversary. I want to specifically highlight this today as we are well into April, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. The Nurse Examiner Program serves as the one place in our community where victims of a violent assault can receive a trauma-informed, victim-driven medical forensic exam, or what some may know as the rape exam. These exams are available to any person of any age, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In addition to the medical care provided, our nurses and staff and volunteer advocates provide and promote a holistic approach to healing, allowing the victim to be in control every step of the way. This includes individualizing the exam to each person, ensuring that they have a safe place to go after an exam, assisting in navigating the legal system, helping set up counseling services, and provide the opportunity for a victim to become a survivor for as long as their journey to healing takes. The NEP was the first standalone program of its kind in the state of Michigan. The standard of care that our YWCA set for victim-centered care has been replicated through the creation of other programs around the state and around the country. The Safe and Confidential program provides crucial life-saving services to nearly 400 adults and children every year. We are proud to provide this service to our community. A moment ago, I'd mentioned that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and you may have seen teal ribbons or scarves and pins around town. teal masks at the library, teal bookmarks at some of our local bookstores, highlighting the importance of this month. We are elated that the community is collaborating with us in spreading awareness of sexual assault in ways which we have not seen before. But we don't want the attention of sexual assault awareness to stop just because the month is almost over. Sexual assault happens every minute of every day. We know that awareness of the pervasiveness of this issue is at an all-time high, in large part because of the high visibility of the Me Too movement and the Larry Nassar case. But just as the news cycles faded, so did the public discussions surrounding sexual assault. And over the past 2 years, the number of individuals who have come through our doors specifically for the Nurse Examiner program have increased tremendously. The number of children we are seeing now make up 1/4 of the exams we perform. There are several reasons for why these numbers are increasing, but it will likely be a while before we fully understand the nuances and complexities of what these trends mean. Conversations about rape and violence done to the body, the mind, the spirit are never easy, but they need to continue. Why? Because we can help change the narrative in our culture that victims should be blamed, that they should just get over it, that only reactive measures should be taken to help curb this epidemic rather than proactive measures. Rape impacts more than just individuals. It impacts an entire community. And if we are able to make progress in creating a safer society free of violence, we all need to arise together to make those changes. Keeping these conversations going is a great place to start. And as we have learned from our activist ancestors before us, there is extraordinary power in the spoken word. Utilizing this tool can create a beautiful revolution of hope for a future without physical or sexual violence. While some of the voices you are about to hear from may not consider themselves activists, their stories are powerful. Our volunteer victim advocates serve as a critical role in our organization and are some of the most supportive, empathetic, and caring individuals I have ever known. Their resilience in walking alongside survivors is a testament to the work that we do together. We are grateful for the time they give to the YWCA, for the compassion they show to victims, and we're inspired by the stories you're about to hear.
I know about the Y because in my last role, we brought our survivors here for support services. And I got to work with some of the people, and I knew that if I was to leave somewhere, it would be for the Y.
Why did I become a volunteer advocate? I knew I wanted to get into the social work realm of things, and I heard about the YWCA, and I thought this was a great way to give back to the community and be a part of change and help women in the communities.
It's such an amazing organization that is very much like survivor-driven, making sure that the survivor has access to all of the care that they need, particularly being through the Nurse Examiner program. Just feels like you're really making a change.
Working as an advocate is extremely personal. It's very one-to-one. You are helping them in that crisis moment, and that was important to me.
To me, it's a really sacred place, a privilege to be drawn in and to be able to be here with them and to hear their stories and to experience it with them. Even if it's, overwhelming, there is something very special about getting to do this work.
It's some of the most difficult times in their life, and being able to make those even a little bit easier for them to handle can mean a lot.
I really just loved their mission statement. It's all about empowering women and eliminating racism, and that's something I can totally get behind.
I'm passionate to help survivors. I love to lead our team of advocates, to inspire them. Most importantly, to let people know that we're here for them. I can be a voice.
In order to be a good volunteer advocate, you need to have a lot of empathy, It's not about you, it's about being there for the person that's been through something terrible.
There's a lot of difficult things you experience. You're really confronted by some of the worst of humanity. And I feel that it's important to know how to take care of yourself as much as you're taking care of that other person. If you're not at your best, how can you be there for people who need you at your best?
You know, all of the advocates here, all of the nurses, like there was a time a couple months ago where I was like, maybe I should be a nurse. They just do such wonderful work. Everything they do with purpose. Even like them doing the exam, they're so careful. Like you can't help but want to do the same thing.
I felt like a sense of family when I applied here, and that was like a big thing for me. I kind of came in with like an open hug.
I always say, and everybody knows when Lisa comes through, that I'm trying to make a difference. With the team behind me, I can't ever say that sexual assault's gonna stop, but I can tell you that we are making a movement and we're making a change, and that's the most important thing.
If I could say anything to a survivor, I would say it's not your fault and you're not alone and you will be okay. It might take time, but you're gonna be okay.
You are worth more than what you can do for other people. I felt like that was really important for me to know, and something I've often had to remind myself. And whenever I think about it, it really moves something in me. I sometimes feel the most difficult advice to take is that you matter.
Often what happens is like they come in for an exam and the next day they have to go back to work, you know, or they have to go back and take their 4 classes the next day and do their, you know, sports stuff. And my hope in coming exams is really to stress that like they deserve to take whatever time they need, whether it's taking 1 day off, a couple hours off, they deserve space.
You're not alone. And I feel like a lot of people think that their situation is only to them, but then you realize that everyone has some type of experience with domestic violence, whether it be watching it or experiencing it.
We're here for you. We're here for all of you.
It makes me feel like I'm part of the change. Although I'm one person, I know that when I come in here and I help that one person that's in here for the NEP program, I know that they're going home or going to a place where they feel supported. And knowing that makes me feel very happy.
I just think it's important that everybody knows why we're here. The Y has so many different services, not just through the nurse examiner program, but much more. And I think that it's important that the community is more aware of that.
I am hopeful for expansion. I want to see what all we can do as advocates in our community. I'd like to see us go more outside of our current scope and help more types of people.
I would hope that just me being here and talking about the program and experiencing this for myself and chatting with friends and family, that if nothing else, make them more comfortable to talk about it with others and then have that trickle effect that somebody that may have been assaulted would feel more comfortable to step forward and seek help if it's happened to them.
I see women in my own community standing up and saying, this isn't okay, we're not gonna take this. It's really in looking back and seeing how far we have come that gives me hope that we can get somewhere going forward.
There are nights we're on call and we don't get any calls. And it's not that things aren't happening, it's that people don't know that we're here. I'm excited for Grand Rapids and for West Michigan to know what we have here. And I'm excited to see the relationships grow with law enforcement and with hospitals. We are equipped to handle things that they might not be as equipped or ready for. And we're really just here to help them with that.
From what I've seen and the women that I work with, the change that we make is incredible. We're helping so many people on a daily basis, and I think more people should be aware of that and try to get involved in helping and creating that change as well.
The YWCA is truly a great organization. It's important for anybody who's interested in learning more about that, especially if someone's interested in becoming a volunteer. Reach out, I encourage you, because it's important because we don't only need you, but our survivors need you.
Our volunteer victim advocates are incredible. I believe love and purpose are their superpowers. We wouldn't be the organization we are today without them. They are on call day and night, regardless of if it's a holiday or there's bad weather or it's snowing in April. They show up for complete strangers in their darkest hour of need. We thank them for showing true compassion, devotion, and love to the YWCA's mission and those we serve. We're encouraged by the work that they do, as well as their courage to be the change we all wish to see in the world. And speaking of change, we are experiencing a much needed cultural evolution in the way in which we are approaching intimate partner violence and sexual violence. While we have known it for a long time, the discussions around these topics have not been mainstream and inclusive as we would like them to be. But there is no time like the present to reiterate this message. Violence against women is not a women's issue. It is everyone's issue, including men and boys, and the binary constructs of gender that limit us all. To help us understand this on a broader level, we are joined today by a couple of inspiring individuals who are unique in their relationship to the YWCA. They are three men who are community leaders in their own right, and are connected to the YWCA through their passion for social and equitable justice. They are Stan Green, the first male to ever serve on the board at the YWCA, and current board members Jathan Austin and Matt Cook. These gentlemen are here today because they see a need for change and recognize their privilege as men to help create that change. They're here to promote gender equity, to call out harmful behaviors and attitudes, and to advocate for a community in which interpersonal violence is not acceptable. Friends, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sharice. My name is Jathan Austin. On behalf of these fine men, we are just excited to be here and happy to be a part of this monumental event. As we have discussed today, we all have a role in creating a role in our community and making it better, especially for those so often cast to the side. These include women, children, people of color, individuals with disabilities, and members of the LGBTQ+ community. These groups of people are at the highest risk of interpersonal and sexual violence across the globe. And we are here today uniquely positioned in our community to talk about these issues and come up with solutions and really create a call to action for you to join us in changing our community. So many of you here today have seen the local and national news headlines a few weeks ago that really disturbed us, describing the individual running in the special election for our state from West Michigan who made some horrific remarks regarding the inevitability of a woman being raped and encouraged them to enjoy it. Men, it was horrific. Matt, you made some statements about that I thought were interesting.
Yeah, I think no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, it doesn't matter. Words can be a form of violence. And I think we need to not be in a space of where we accept metaphors, especially referring to horrific events like rape and any other form of domestic violence or other violence, and accept that as a social norm. That's just not acceptable. We need to, again, it's not a political statement. That's not acceptable. We need to not accept that as being okay.
In any form.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I spend a lot of time on stages and with organizations and talking with people, and metaphor is really, really powerful for me. And the idea around metaphor is there's a deeper truth that you carry that you use to speak to something that's superficial. And so it's stunning, shocking to me that the response is, well, this was just a metaphor. That speaks to the way in which culturally we have internalized some beliefs that we need to just work hard to set aside. And there's work for us all to do. And I don't know if we have solutions today, but we'll at least have some ideas of things that we can each do to move the meter.
So powerful. The statement about a woman having to accept and enjoy a violent assault, we can all agree, is unconscionable. And it's also extremely dangerous, as we've stated already. And the person didn't even apologize or own their behavior, instead of made excuses. And I think this is really powerful because we're telling men this is not okay, and we're not willing to allow any excuse for that kind of violence. And we are really, really proud of our YWCA and their immediate and proactive statement in the response to these comments in a Newsweek article that stated, don't minimize rape. Don't politicize violence against women, and stop making victims' response to the issue. If you're going to talk about rape, talk about who's committing rape, why they're doing it, and what we should be doing to address and prevent it. Gentlemen, you want to share something on that?
Yeah, I just think that you hit it right to point there. It's something of where too often the norm is that we're just going to accept that as we can refer to it. I really liked what you said there, Stan, a second ago, of we're internalizing that. And so let's move past that. Let's move to a point of where we don't even talk about that as a reference, but we do address the behaviors and the social norms of where that type of thing never should happen.
That's good.
Yeah. The whole question or the conversation around, well, here are the things that you need to do to protect yourself, again, speaks to the way that we've internalized this notion of inevitability. And we've got to set that aside, to be able to say systemically, broadly, how do we set a new set of expectations and hold each of us accountable for different behavior?
I like that. We really applaud the YWCA's swift response, but we don't want the conversation to end there. Now, we aren't here to be political at all, but we are here to challenge those positions of power and their words that cause reverberating harm, and this behavior should not be tolerated in any way. These voices should not be the ones that are being heard, but our voices, the ones that are advocating anti-violence work, need to be heard and need to be heard louder. With that being said, I'd like to open this conversation, gentlemen, between ourselves, Matt, Stan, and myself. Let's get into it, all right? Let's deep into this, dive into this. Today, we're challenged with some ideas of everything in our society has taught us. And one of those things that we want to talk about today is the excuse, boys will be boys. Matt, what do you weigh in on this idea that boys will be boys? Is that okay?
No, it's accepting. We're basically making an excuse for any behavior before it happens that it's going to be okay and it's just acceptable because of our gender. And I think we need to stop that. But also be proactive in the sense of let's redefine what does it mean boys will be boys? How are we lifting up women in our lives? How are we supporting, whether it be young men, whether it be adults, and ensuring that the behaviors are positive behaviors, where we're lifting up the women in our communities, the women in our own lives, and empowering them in celebrating the ways that they're winning, instead of celebrating, or just not necessarily celebrating, but accepting behavior that historically or that our society is saying, oh, that's a norm, that's just something that boys or men are doing. No, we need to redefine that.
That's good. Earlier we had a conversation. You said some powerful things, Stan, concerning boys will be boys.
Well, yeah, the thing is that, popular phrases become popular because there's a kernel of truth at the center of them. And the kernel of truth here is that it is absolutely true that boys will be boys. And it's up to all of us to help them redefine the fact that they need to be something different as they grow and they mature, as they take roles in our community. And so, yes, it's absolutely true that boys will be boys, and they will continue to be boys until we hold them accountable for being something else.
We got to make boys men.
We've got to model that. That's right.
That's awesome. That brings me into our next question. What can we do when we see the violent behavior, comments, and from other men, especially friends and family that are directed towards women or a minority group?
I think it's just not look past it. We are not going to accept that and just be okay that it happens. I think we need to speak out against it. When it happens, speak up. And I really think that there is something in our society that we just accept that and move on instead of stopping in that moment and saying something about it. So being able to, and hopefully this is a transition to Stan. Stan talked about, or Will maybe can touch on how relationships are important to that.
Well, we will speak to that, yes, this issue of what are the relationships that we have, and how are we creating a space where people expect that we're going to show up in a particular way. And if they expect that we're going to show up in a particular way and they care about us because we've built relationship, then my opinion matters. If my opinion matters, then my concerns and my corrections matter. And that creates the opportunity for us within this context of, all of this turmoil and violent language, for us to counter program, really to kind of use the language of the medium. If all of the channels are violent, misogynistic channels, if all the channels are self-interested channels, we get to be a different channel, and we get to have a different message. And then particularly for our youth, for them to be able to say, well, that's not the norm. And this person with whom I have a relationship demonstrates something different. That's a powerful space for us to create.
That's powerful that you even bring that up, because as we talk about spaces that we need to create, social media has become a tool, and that tool can be used for positive or negative. How do we navigate the violent rhetoric that has now become a strong foothold in our online spaces? I want you to speak to that first, Stan.
I think we have to step first to acknowledge that if something is absolutely unacceptable, we have to feel that first. And then I tend to find myself thinking through or taking a breath to determine first in this realm of relationship, is this someone who I know that I can influence them directly? And sometimes that will be my response. But even when it's not someone I know, sometimes this notion of counter-programming comes up that says, what's the message that I send to others who are listening about the acceptability of this? And I'm often very, very aware of the way that it's not so much that I'm going to say something that's going to change that person's behavior, but the other people who are onlookers, the other people who are observers, have the opportunity to determine, is it possible for me to speak up? If Stan can speak up because he sees it as being unacceptable, then the next time, if I feel it's unacceptable, maybe I'll speak up. And that's a place that we need to create.
It's powerful. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think words are dangerous too. And I think that's, especially as we think of our, whether it be children or young adults, in what is consumed, and even for us as adults, in what we consume in social media, of making sure that we're aware of what we're consuming. I think that's, sometimes meaning you have to unfollow somebody or unfriend them. It also means in other spaces that we may need to step out and use our voice in that social media space. That's one of the benefits of social media, is being able to use that as a platform, especially in the content that we're talking about, of not accepting, somebody that, going full circle in our conversation of when we see something, if it's a news story, being able to share the counter view to that, or why the words that are used or the actions that are used are not something that needs to exist. And I think it's that concept of societal norms, not just accepting that it's okay for people to use social media to blast out these messages that can create an acceptance of behavior that needs to not exist any longer.
You said something so powerful that I thought we need to dive into, is who you follow, what you share, that we've got an influence that we carry by shutting some of this rhetoric down, by saying, I'm not even going to follow you, and nor am I going to share this content that is anti what I believe or that's anti-violent against women. So I love the fact that you're bringing that out, because I think sometimes we see memes or we see certain things that we may laugh at but really are not socially acceptable.
Yeah, and again, it's the danger. Our minds consume that, and as much as we don't want to say, even if we don't agree with it, if we continue to consume those messages, we are conditioning ourselves to have that be acceptable. And so there are others, in danger of continuing to consume that material. So I think that's important for us to ensure that both ourselves and those that surround us don't continue to do that and feel safe, unfollowing. But the other piece of that too is the effect of what that has. So it may not, watching the video just a second ago of we have survivors and those that have experienced trauma that also see those things, and while it may not have personal meaning to us, that can be re-traumatizing to somebody else that sees that message. And so I think that the more that we can do to shut those messages down, the better.
There's something I'd throw in there as well. And when we think about this idea of social media, I use the word friend very, very judiciously. And so I'm not quick to call everyone a friend. But I have people who I interact with in social media who are friends. And I had the conversation with one once who made a comment that was just directly offensive. And I said, something, how could you say that? And he gave his rationalization. And I said, no friend would do that. A friend wouldn't do that. A friend would not say to me, I'm going to give you a glass of water. I might have drawn it from the sink, or I might have ladled it out of my toilet bowl. I'm just going to put it out here, and you just read it, and you decide if it's good or bad. No friend would do that. And think about the number of times that people interact with you and say, well, I don't know if it's true or not, but I just posted it, and you can decide. No friend does that. And we've got to call that out as unacceptable with people that we know and love.
That's so good. That brings me to another question. How then can we be there for women and others that are in our lives that have been hurt by men?
Well, I think one of the things that really informs me is this notion of we have to be willing to listen and sit with pain. Oh,
wow.
And if you've not taken the opportunity to look at it, there's a short video. Go out and search for it. It's not about the nail. A little short vignette in which a woman is talking with a man in her life, and he's about the business of solving her problem. And she interjects, it's not about the nail, which is his trigger to then stop and simply empathize and listen and sit with him or sit with her. And the thing that we as men can often do is get in our problem-solving mode. We're going to solve the problem. We're going to work on it. And that's our way of shutting off the emotions and shutting off the pain. Sometimes you have to sit with that and embrace that and then determine how can I intentionally respond in a way that's empathetic. And sometimes we need to just be quiet and listen and hold someone in that space and honor them in that space.
That's good. Matt, what does that support look like for you?
That's good. I think being aware of the spaces that we're in, and I really like what you said, Stan, of not being so quick to speak, but being aware of who surrounds us, what are the responses, and also being aware of the unspoken responses. And so I think in a lot of ways, we need to be really conscious. And unfortunately, each of us in our work with the YWCA, I think, has realized how prevalent some of these experiences have been for women in this community and close to us. And I think we need to be really aware of the spaces that we're in, and not just, we're talking about proactive behaviors and a lot of what we're talking about, but also in the sense of just the trauma that has existed in some of the people that we interact with, and being really sensitive to that and in lifting their experiences up and letting them share those experiences when and where it's safe to do so.
That's so powerful. Something you were saying, Stan, that really made me think about how we normalize, even in our children, becoming boys to men and making it normal for our boys to feel that emotional connection to where they don't have to feel like being emotional is being sensitive or you're not a man, but knowing how to have that compassion for things that are not right and being able to express that in a real way, because a real man knows how to express his emotions, right? Not suppress them. And so if we can normalize those ideas in our children, when they become men, they won't be men that look like boys.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's powerful. I know that we could easily continue this conversation for another 20 minutes, but we know every one of you are at home and at work, and you got to get back to your life and do the things that are necessary. But I would love just really quickly for you all to have just a minute of just closing thoughts of, just what you want to share and convey to our group.
I would really just encourage those that are watching, especially those that are males in this community, to continue to lift up and empower the women that surround you, listen, but also be really aware of your own behavior and what are you consuming, but also what are you exhibiting and what are others seeing you do, and how do we continue to stamp out the social norms of what the behavior we're talking about of boys will be boys, and really look at a future in which we are lifting up and empowering the women that surround us.
Awesome.
Well, and I guess I would challenge everyone to step beyond the familiar. Care about this because you want your wife, your sister, your daughter to live in a better world. That's good as far as it goes. And I had the privilege of standing on a stage like this and addressing the open circle event, and I talked about my granddaughter. And there are moments when now I cringe a bit when I think about that. Because if the best thing that we can say is I want to do this because it's better for people who are close to me, that's good as far as it goes, but it's just not enough. We've got to care about people who we will never see just as deeply as we care about people who are close to us. And so that's the challenge I'd place before everyone. Care, because caring is the new norm, not self-interest.
Wow, I don't think anything else needs to be said. Your both your insights, your thoughtfulness today, your words were very powerful, very important around this topic. And we're leaving here today inspired and hopeful that you will join us in making the change of our community to be better. Now I would like to hand the stage back over to our illustrious board member, President India Mans. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. I am feeling so hyped. I certainly hope you do too. Thank you, Stan, Jathan, and Matt. We are inspired by each of you and proud to serve on the board with real game changers in our community. We appreciate your perspective on these pervasive and dangerous issues, and more importantly, your call to action to create a community and world without violence. Your call to action is helping to build something bigger than any of us, and we see a brighter future for our children and grandchildren. We hope you all are fired up to be a part of this community of change. Because of you, the YWCA can continue to be a source of hope, healing, where racism and sexism give rise to domestic and sexual violence. And with your investment, we help transform lives with expert services for victims and education to end those things that fuel abuse and public policy that translates our mission into law. Your support is a path to action and makes an immediate and effective impact on our community and those we serve. As mentioned at the top of the program, the YWCA is entering a new chapter. In this new chapter, they remain firmly committed to their work as most experienced and comprehensive provider of services to address domestic and sexual violence. The mission has never been more relevant, and they cannot do this work alone. They need partners like each of you. They know many of you are here today because you purchased tickets or are attending on behalf of a generous sponsor. I ask that you please consider making an investment to support the mission of the YWCA. On average, it costs $500 to perform a medical forensic exam through the Nurse Examiner program. Over the course of the pandemic, domestic and sexual violence increased 25%. Any donation amount you give today will be greatly appreciated. By giving a one-time or monthly gift of $25, $50, $100, or more, and yes, you know we always like more, you are expressing your support for the YWCA's leading role in having an immediate impact on our community response to violence. I realize by asking your support that this may come as a personal sacrifice on your part. Many of you know me, and you know I only ask for what's needed. and the need for the crucial services offered by the YWCA are in great demand today. Please know your donation is an investment into a survivor's future. You can find a gift envelope included with your today's special gift, or you can donate online right now at ywcami.org/give. Together, we can bring hope and healing to our community. Thank you in advance for your generosity. I now have the pleasure of introducing a wonderful poet and educator from our community, Jocelyn Barnes.
Thank you so much, India. Hi there. My name's Jocelyn. I'm here on behalf of an incredible org called the Diatribe. We are an arts-focused nonprofit based in Grand Rapids, and one of the things we're known for is teaching youth poetry. To find out more about us, you can go to www.thediatribe.org. Now that my board is happy, I can talk about myself. I'm a poet too. I think sometimes I like poetry because it lets me turn ugly truths into something people can find beauty in. It also helps me make sense of the stuff that shouldn't have happened in my life. It's kind of a lengthy list, and I don't want to get into it just yet since we're just meeting. But I am super excited to be sharing my truth here because there was a time not too long ago that I didn't have my voice. Folks aligned with the work the YWCA is doing were able to help me find it. And so I'm using it today with you now. And if it's cool with y'all, I'm going to share a few facts. These facts are, for me, really hard to receive. And so I'm going to be taking deep breaths as I'm talking, and you can feel free to do so along with me as we go. The CDC has found that 1 in 4 women will be abused by a relationship partner. 1 in 6 women will be a survivor of sexual assault in their lifetime. And I don't know about you, but when I hear stats like that, I need to pause and make them a little bit more tangible to me. So think of all the women who are important to you. Of course, your coworkers, neighbors, friends, lovers, wives, mothers, daughters. You definitely know more than 4 or 6 women right off of the top of your head, right? Now, what if I told you that being a better ally to them meant that you could prevent violence against them? Less than half of instances of sexual assault and similar violence gets reported to authorities. Equally so, less than half of survivors reach out to professional support like therapists or the trained victim advocates at the YWCA. So what does that mean? The people who are listening to me right now, most of us are untrained professional folks, and we're just regular human beings who are full of complexities and personal biases. We are usually the first people that survivors share their stories with. We're the first people our friends trust in the wake of life-altering trauma. Dr. Rebecca Campbell, who's a psychology professor at MSU, said, "One of the strongest predictors in a person who is able to heal after being sexually assaulted is the care they receive after violence. If they are cared for and supported, they're less likely to show signs of PTSD and more likely to seek professional help. Simply put, if we're there for our friends, we can create a safer community. We need to make it clear to survivors that there are people in their lives who care. So how do we be more present for them? Good news. The first pillar of allyship is listening. Anybody can be a good listener. If you're tuned in right now, you are already crushing it, so pat yourselves on the back. Okay, now that we've kind of gotten into the groove, we know why we're listening, right? Now I'm gonna share a poem with you guys. This piece is all about positive affirmation, which has been a huge part of my healing journey as a survivor. I'm gonna take a deep breath and get into poetry space real quick. Ida B. Wells said, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. Dear sunshine goddess, you brown-skinned beauty, please remember that healing is everyday work. Don't be so hard on yourself because most of us, like you, are still learning through the tatters of our history, unraveling the threads of ancestral secrets of survival and guilt. Please remember that the day you plant the seed is not the day you get to eat the fruit. I know all too well, sometimes the hardest place to be is right where you are. Whether it's keeping up appearances or respectability politics, we all find that laughter is a safe space. No matter what our oppressors or abusers can do to us, they can never take away our capacity for joy. Sibling, like all things, you will have to work for your dreams too. Get your hands dirty and sweat for it. Dig deep into the soil. You have to want to be more free than you want to be comfortable. I ask you now to fight your learned behaviors, teach yourself something new, and be open to other perspectives. Put down your trauma responses, whether they were passed down from your mother's garden or a cotton field. Those old neural pathways don't serve you anymore. You are going from green to gold. So when you hear someone else's voice telling you who you should be, find your own, reminding you who you are. You are love and light and everything in between on these hard days when your power becomes a whisper. Lean into someone who loves and looks like you. Listen to the way their voice is soft for you, to the ways their laugh gets tangled up in yours, in the music of the way their breathing is easier in your presence and yours in theirs. Finally, remember that rest is reparations, and for you to make room for your highest good, you'll have to give yourself space and time. Connect with the divine, and if you need to scream, please let yourself do it. Thanks for listening to my poem. Okay, now let's do a little practice of the key phrases of allyship. You can repeat after me. Thank you for sharing your story with me. I value your truth and honor your expression. What can I do to support you? Boom, look at that. You're already on the path to being a better ally. I want to end this with 2 questions to all the men listening. At some point in your life, a woman or individual close to you is likely to be a survivor of domestic or sexual violence. Are you confident that they will trust you and turn to you for support? Will they see you as an ally? Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you, Jocelyn. I think there are fingers snapping and hands clapping all over the place. That was amazing and incredible. And we hope that your words, which come from a place of pain, hope, and beauty, encourage everyone and at home to be powerful and to arise. As we close today's program, we want to say a special thank you to all of you for joining us here today. We are encouraged by everyone's support of the YWCA West Central Michigan. If we are to succeed in our mission of eliminating racism, empowering women and girls, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all, having people like you in our corner, supporting us through your actions and your donations will ensure the positive, lasting impact in our community. Once again, if you need us today or tomorrow, please call us anytime, day or night, 616-454-9922, or visit our website at ywcawcmi.org for additional resources and opportunities to get involved and to donate. Thank you all so much, and we hope to see you all soon.